The Royal Gloucestershire Hussars was a yeomanry regiment of the British Army, raised in 1795 following William Pitt's 1794 order to raise volunteer bodies of men to defend Great Britain, through various reorganisations. The Royal Gloucestershire Hussars remain today on the establishment of the Territorial Army as Sea Squadron Royal Wessex Yeomanry. Its main function is to provide tank replacement crew for the Challenger 2 main battle tank. It also trains in a forward reconnaissance role on the Land Rover Defender. It continues to have strong ties with the King's Royal Hussars. History, formation and early years. In 1795, Captain Powell Snell raised the first troop of Gloucestershire gentlemen and yeomanry at the Plough Inn in Cheltenham. By 1797, troops had been raised at Minchin, Hampton, Wootton under Edge, Stow on the Wold, Henbury, Bristol, and Gloucester. In 1798, Stroud had also raised a troop. Following the 1802 Peace of Amiens, all except the Cheltenham troop under Major Snell were disbanded. Following the end of the Napoleonic Wars, all yeomanry troops were disbanded, either voluntarily or by order, in 1827. In 1830, responding to unrest amongst agricultural workers, yeomanry troops were raised again. The first troop was established by Mr. Codrington of Doddington Park, quickly followed by troops from Fairford, Cirencester, Stroud, Tetbury, Gloucester, and Bristol. In 1834, the captains of all Gloucestershire troops met in Petty France and combined to form one regiment, known as the Gloucestershire Yeomanry Cavalry. The Marquess of Worcester was appointed as the first commanding officer and a band was established. Boer War in 1900, 123 members of the RGH under Captain W. H. Plain left for Cape Town, forming Secoy 1BN Imperial Yeomanry. World War I. In accordance with the Territorial and Reserve Forces Act 1907, which brought the Territorial Force into being, the TF was intended to be a home defense force for service during wartime and members could not be compelled to serve outside the country. However, on the outbreak of war on the 4th of August 1914, many members volunteered for Imperial service. Therefore, TF units were split in August and September 1914 into first-line and second-line units. Later, a third line was formed to act as a reserve, providing trained replacements for the first and second-line regiments. 1/1 of a Stone Royal Gloucestershire Hussars on 15 April 1915, the RGH sailed to Egypt and was almost immediately dispatched as dismounts to Gallipoli. On returning to Egypt, it took part in many of the battles that formed the Sinai and Palestine campaign, primarily as part of the Imperial Mounted Division, including the Battle of Beersheba. The RGH served with the 1st South Midland Mounted Brigade throughout the war, initially with the 2nd Mounted Division in the Gallipoli campaign, then with the Imperial Mounted Division and the 5th Cavalry Division in Sinai and Palestine. 2/1 of a Stone Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. The 2nd Line Regiment was formed at Gloucester in September 1914. In April 1915, it joined the 2/1 of a Stone South Midland Mounted Brigade at Cirencester and, in June, moved to North Norfolk where the brigade joined the 2nd Mounted Division. On 31 March 1916, the remaining mounted brigades were ordered to be numbered in a single sequence. The brigade was numbered as 10th Mounted Brigade and the division as 3rd Mounted Division. In July 1916, the regiment was converted to a cyclist unit in 8th Cyclist Brigade, 2nd Cyclist Division, initially in Kent then at Ipswich. In November 1916, the division was broken up and regiment was merged with the 2/1 of a Stone Queensone Worcestershire Hussars to form 12th Yeomanry Cyclist Regiment in 4th. Cyclist Brigade at Ipswich. In March 1917, it resumed its identity as 2/1 of a Stone Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. In July 1917, it moved to Wivenhoe, and in January 1918 to Clacton. About April 1918, the regiment moved to Ireland and was stationed at Dublin, where it remained, still in 4th Cyclist Brigade, until the end of the war. 3/1 of a Stone Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. The 3rd Line Regiment was formed in 1915. In the summer it was affiliated to a reserve cavalry regiment at Tidworth. In the summer of 1916, it was affiliated to the 4th Reserve Cavalry Regiment, still at Tidworth. Early in 1917 it was absorbed into the 5th Reserve Cavalry Regiment, also at Tidworth. Between the wars, on the 7th of February 1920, the regiment was reconstituted in the Territorial Army with HQ at Gloucester. Following the experience of the war, it was decided that only the 14 most senior yeomanry regiments would be retained as horse cavalry, with the rest being transferred to other roles. As a result, on the 14th of July 1921, the regiment was one of 8 converted and reduced to 21st Armoured Car Company, Tank Corps. In October 1923, it was redesignated as 21st Armoured Car Company, Royal Tank Corps, and on the 30th of April 1939 it was transferred to the Royal Armoured Corps. By 1939, it became clear that a new European war was likely to break out, and a doubling of the Territorial Army was authorized, with each unit forming a duplicate. The RGH was expanded to an armored regiment and, on the 30th of April, regained its original title as 1st Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. It also provided a cadre for its duplicate 2nd Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. A nominal 3rd RGH was formed later. World War II 1st Royal Gloucestershire Hussars 1st RGH guarded the southwest of England after Dunkirk, due to leave for Africa as part of 6th Armoured Division. A last-minute change saw the unit spend the majority of the war as a UK defence training regiment. After VJ Day, 1st RGH was sent to Austria, where it took part in the musical ride at the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. 2nd Royal Gloucestershire Hussars 2nd RGH reached Egypt in October 1941 as part of 22nd Armoured Brigade. The unit took part in many of the key battles in Operation Crusader. In subsequent engagements, the RGH suffered many casualties and was re-equipped on 2 occasions. 2nd RGH fought its final action at Battle of Alam el Hafa on the 31st of August to the 5th of September 1942. Expecting to be re-equipped, the regiment was instead disbanded with F, G, and H squadrons transferred to the 4th Hussars, Royal Wiltshire Yeomanry and the 8th Hussars respectively. HQ squadron was divided between the 5th Royal Tank Regiment and the 3rd Hussars. 3rd Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. The 3rd Regiment was formed as a deception unit. It constructed and moved dummy tanks in order to deceive the enemy as to the disposition and strength of British armour. Late 20th century. In keeping with many Territorial Army units, the RGH was reduced to a cadre of 3 officers and 4 NCOs between 1969 and 1971. Current status. The RGH forms C Squadron Royal Wessex Yeomanry as an armoured replacement squadron. It is also the parent unit of the Army section of Pate's Grammar School Combined Cadet Force, whose members wear the cap badge of the RGH. Guidon. The current guidon was presented to the RGH by Carl the Duke of Beaufort, representing HM the Queen at Badminton House on the 27th of May 1962. Battle honours. The battle honours earned by the regiment were items of interest. JNCO rank. Lance corporals and corporals in the RGH have slightly different badges of rank compared to other similar units within the British Army. A lance corporal has 2 chevrons and a corporal has 2 chevrons topped with a cloth crown. This crown is lost when the corporal is promoted to sergeant. In keeping with all armoured and cavalry units, rank is worn only on the right sleeve. The origin of this arrangement is unclear. Suggestions vary from Queen Victoria preferred all NCOs to wear 2 chevrons minimum, to the practice of lance corporals removing the single chevron from the left sleeve of the dolman, as this would be covered by the pelisse. As the RGH does not form part of the household division and the pelisse was not worn by NCOs from 1882, both these explanations are probably incorrect. Bibliography. Bellis, Malcolm A. Regiments of the British Army 1939–1945. London, Military Press International. ISBN 0854209999. Clifford, Rollo. The Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. Stroud, Alan Sutton. ISBN 0862999820. James Brigadier. British Regiments 1914–18. London, Samson Books Limited. ISBN 0906304032. Milam, Patrick. The Yeomanry Regiments, 200 Years of Tradition. Edinburgh, Canongate Academic. ISBN 1898410364. Morgan, Paul McMahon, Captain T. Bird, SSGTD. A Short History of the Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. Gloucester, Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. Pittman, Stuart. 2nd Royal Gloucestershire Hussars. London, St. Catherine Press. Rinaldi, Richard A. Order of Battle of the British Army 1914. Ravi Rikai, ISBN 9780977607280. Royal Review of Serving Yeomanry Regiments and Amp Old Comrades by Her Majesty the Queen. 1994. Year of the Yeomanry. Winchester Army Museum Ogleby Trust. 1994. ISBN 0951571486.